And what happened last time Thatcher went over to Chile, do you remember?
No.
Okay, I'll show you. She was on a tour, a book tour, plugging your latest book.
And the...
Amazing how he gets a spontaneous round of applause.
She's maintained her popularity over the years.
This is poor old Richard Bacon, is it? Is that his name?
Was his name,
Who,
yes, is his name.
Got caught, or got, I don't know, did somebody grass him up?
He just happened to have some trouble with his nose.
Yes, and tried to cure it by taking loads of cocaine.
Yes, they have had a bit of a history.
Well, Christopher Trace, who was the first sort of male presenter, didn't he have to leave because he was a divorcee? Didn't he get divorced back in the 60s when this was considered a high old crime?
Well, Janet Ellis had to go because she was a single mother.
And
What's that got to do with Christopher Trace being a divorcee? That's like saying, well, would you like this apple? Well, you have some porridge. That's two completely different things altogether.
It means Angus hasn't a clue about Christopher Trace. It's not written on his bit of paper.
Oh, I see.
Too long ago.
Unlike other question masters, he just doesn't know the answers.
Magnus, what about Christopher Trace? Tell us.
There's a word trembling at the back of my mind. It's past.
What's your take on TV presenters taking drugs then?
Why do you ask me?
I seem to remember last time we were on this programme you actually admitted to taking hallucinogenic drugs in South America.
That really was in the course of duty, and there were 14 people around me of restricted size with pieces of string tied around their willies and...
You only thought there were.
Yeah.
It does sound like Blue Peter a bit.
It does sound like
Yes, it is the Blue Peter drug scandal, so well done to Paul and Magnus, and here are your Blue Peter badges as a result. Well done.
Oh, lovely. I always wonder, what, are these genuine?
Yes, obviously. Yeah,
You powder these up.
It says on the back, not suitable for children.
Yes, Blue Peter's 40th anniversary was marred by the News of the World story about presenter Richard Bacon, who this week left the BBC under a cloud. He sneezed on his way out. They're not certain where the presenter got his drugs from, but it's rumoured that the Blue Peter garden now has a street value of £200,000. Thousands of copies of this year's Blue Peter Annual have been hastily withdrawn to ensure that certain embarrassing headlines would never reach the viewing public. So here they are. First, on page 46, we have Stone Me. Then there's Richard's smiling face below the words potted. And on page 8, the almost prophetic Blue Peter in the snow.
You've just met Gaddafi, haven't you?
He signed his book for me, actually.
Did you read it?
I did. It was barking mad. As indeed was he. Can I tell you about what happened when I interviewed him?
Please.
Just a few days ago. He broke wind all through the interview. Very, very deliberately and very...
John Simpson, news at 10.
That's where I'll probably be working after this. And his eyes seemed to come out a bit when he did it. You could tell that when we played...
That's one of the perks of being a dictator of your own country.
But when we played it on the 9 o'clock news, we put the sound down so the viewers wouldn't be offended.
Was it actually audible?
It was clearly audible. The cameraman was very embarrassed. He didn't know how to phrase it to me, so he said, "Did you hear the Colonel making noises?"
I didn't hear him making any noises. He was farting too loud.
And what is the French word for monster?
Monstre.
No wonder you're foreign editor of the piece.
I meant to monster in the Hislop sense of the word.
Blaguer.
Monstre.
No, it is in fact entate. It exists as a French verb, to shove a
cares?
cream pie into one's face. They do.
Who does?
French people.
They're not here?
Well, there might be one or two here. don't
Any
know.
French people here? No. Oh, right.
Thank you, that's actually my brother, but thank you.
How comes your brother's French?
He was pretending, Paul. The answer is...
Pretending to be your brother or pretending to be French?
Angus was acting, a rare treat.
I'm going to give you this answer, this is the last thing I do. The answer is...
Well, there's always hope.
Our next contender is a Mr. Magnus Magnusson, a quiz show host from Reykjavik, and your specialist subject, Mr. Magnusson, is obviously Mastermind. You have as long as you like on the subject of Mastermind, starting now. What unpleasant fate befell the Black Chair in 1978 and 79?
It was kidnapped.
It was kidnapped, the first time by students for a ransom of £50.
Yes.
What question did you get wrong on Quiz Ball in 1968 that would have won the programme for Kilmarnock FC?
What was the name of the American playwright who married Marilyn Monroe?
Correct. And who was the American playwright who married Marilyn Monroe?
I had problems with that, because all I could remember was the name of the surgeon who operated my mother's kidneys. And his name was Douglas Arthur.
I can't accept that. It's Arthur Miller, in fact. One question in 1977 led to a viewer complaining that you had mistakenly given Christ's first name as Reginald. What was the question?
It was a very reasonable complaint to make. It was a question in a specialised subject on the life and works of P.G. Wodehouse. And the question was, what was Jeeves's Christian name?
Absolutely correct. And what was Jeeves's Christian name?
Reginald.
Correct. Mastermind has its own fan club. What's the name of its magazine?
Pass.
Correct. Which language did you most dread having to read as part of the questions?
French.
Correct. Marcel Proust's Remembrance of Things Past was entitled what in its original language?
Are you ready for this? À la recherche de la tombe perdue.
No, à la recherche de temps perdu. And at the end of that round, Mr. Magnusson, you have scored 6 points. And so to our final contender, Mr. John Simpson, your full name, please.
John Cody Fiddler Simpson.
Mr. Fiddler Simpson is the BBC World Affairs editor, and your specialist subject is, therefore, Christmas cracker jokes. Mr. Fiddler Simpson, you have as long as you can stand it on Christmas cracker jokes, starting...
I've had enough.
No. What's black and white and red all over?
I think that was a nun that was knocked out. Oh no, that was something else, wasn't it?
I'll accept a nun chewing razor blades, in fact. What's brown and sticky?
Is that what a stick, is it? A stick.
Correct. How do you make a Venetian blind?
Sand in his eyes.
Sand in his eyes. Listen, I'm sorry. I really am sorry for everything I've done. You know, I
can't accept that.
Whatever it is, I confess
Poke
it.
him in the eye is, in fact, the answer.
Colonel Gaddafi wasn't farting at all.
What time did the Chinaman go to the dentist?
2:30. 2:30.
Tooth hurty. That is... doesn't racism enter into this at all?
Never bothered us in the past. What's green, hairy, and goes up and down?
Gooseberry in a lift.
A gooseberry in a lift.
What's pink, hairy, and hangs out your
A
pyjamas?
gooseberry in a lift.
No, your mother. And someone else's sexuality was called into question this week.
Yes. Not mine.
Whose was it, Ian?
I think it was the Prince of Darkness. Yes.
The Prince of Darkness.
Yes. Some Matthew Paris said.
When did he say this?
This week.
It was on Newsnight. He said there are 2 gay members of the cabinet, and Paxman said 2.
You can see it now.
There are 2 gay members in the cabinet, at least.
2 gay members of the cabinet.
Yes.
Gay members of the cabinet?
Well, Chris Smith is openly gay,
Chris Smith is
and I
openly
think
gay.
Peter Mandelson is certainly gay.
I'm not quite sure where he is.
You're just waiting for him to say, I've had him.
Oh dear.
And what else did Matthew Paris reveal this week? Was kind of interesting.
Well, he wrote a piece saying that he'd gone cruising on Clapham Common.
Clubbing Common, yes.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Do you want to continue or not?
Not much.
Yes.
What are we doing here, Ian? We should be at home writing books about Diana, shouldn't we? I mean, you make money. You make real money.
Do you know how many there are?
Oh, it's got to be a good one. You've got to make it up a bit. I mean, you've got to sex it up, you know.
Well, it was sort of brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Sex it up a bit. Yeah. Is that a meteorological term?
Yeah.
And there was also something that Di was supposed to have found around the house belonging to Camilla. Don't you read about
Charles.
Fergie's show, has anyone seen it?
Nope. No one at all.
What's it called?
No one's watching.
Alone with Sarah.
Sarah Surviving Life, it's called. And at a bullfight in Madrid, Eric Cantona regrets shouting abuse from the crowd. Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You. As you may have heard, the BBC has issued a ban on mentioning certain aspects of Peter Mandelson's life. We, however, refuse to submit to any form of censorship and will continue for a meal in Clapham.
This is the man who we can't mention. That's the programme we can't mention. Oh, there's John Burt.
This man, this is the guy you're not supposed to talk about, right?
Peter Mandelson is his name. Yeah.
I'd rather you didn't mention his name.
Why?
Because I think we should respect John Burt, who's the Director General of the BBC. I think you should respect his views, because he does not want it to be known publicly that the man we don't mention is a friend of his. And it is none of our business if this man and John Burt are friends. That's entirely their personal lives. And if John wants to gag the world's largest news broadcasting information on the grounds that it's a friend of him, why shouldn't he?
We can have a look at the clip again if you want. The problem is...
I mean, I don't want to see it myself. I don't think it's any of our business. But if the audience wants to see it...
Well, it's the will of the people, isn't it? So we can show it to you.
People's clip.
The drawback being that we can only show it to you. You can't actually hear anything that anyone's saying because of the ban by the BBC.
Who is this guy?
And he got him to say this.
Fantastic, I think you'll all agree. This is, anyway, the fury which has erupted over the confidential BBC internal memo this week, which reads, please will all programmes note that under no circumstances whatsoever should the private life of Peter Mandelson be referred to on any broadcast. Whoops. Norman Tebbit came out of the woodwork on Monday to suggest that gays should not occupy senior cabinet posts, saying it is not acceptable that homosexuals should be in a position to do each other favours. This is, of course, the same Norman Tebbit who steered through the privatisation of BT and a few years later joined them as a director, so it's okay for mad heterosexuals then.
Everybody thought that the Monica Lewinsky case would destroy the Clinton party, the Democratic Party, and the whole story of the of Clinton's oral sex problems.
Never seemed to be a problem as far as I could work.
Everybody said that's disgusting for a president of the United States to have oral sex with an intern. Then they had a grand jury testimony, which you probably all saw in this country, where he explained that oral sex is not sex. And the whole country in the United States is walking around wondering, it's not sex? I could have sworn. Everybody said, I could have sworn it was sex. What were we doing? People are calling up their hookers to get their money back.
So I got caught up in a campaign to stop Rupert Murdoch taking over our football team.
Manchester United Football Club, you mean?
Yes.
Didn't succeed there, did he?
We're doing very well, thank you
All
very
right.
much. It's gone to the Monopolies Commission.
And who have you got to thank for referring it to the Monopolies Commission?
Our friend Peter Mandelson.
Please. I really don't think what he does in his political life is any of your business.
I can't understand this whole thing with this Mendelssohn. Don't you think it's disgusting that people dislike him?
Well, I don't dislike him. And
But why is he so unpopular?
Because people don't like him.
I don't think they like being
Why
censored.
is it he's got all the answers and you don't seem to know what's going on?
They're all on MI5's files, apart from James Bond, who was in MI6 and had a license to kill.
I think you'll find he was a fictional character.
I don't believe it!
No, look, there he is there, look. He was in all those films, James Bond.
I think you might find it Sean Connery. And then
They do look similar now you mention it. Isn't Sean Connery a special friend of Peter Mandelson? Because Peter's given him one of his flowers, look.
Yes, fascinating fact about Sean Connery.
Gave a lot of money to the SNP.
That is a fascinating fact. It's not the fascinating fact I was after. He was asked to play for Manchester United by Matt Busby.
Oh, God, that is interesting, Angus.
I don't know where we'd be without you, Angus.
It's incredible.
BBC One, perhaps?
That's Nick Brown. He's gay. That's Ron Davis. He's a druid. That's Chris Smith. He's gay. And that...
Stephen, your book that is out. Or...
Thank you for mentioning it. It's called Labour Camp.
Yes. It has a bright pink cover, I noticed.
Yes, I've got a sort of pale pink shirt. And I was just wondering, do you notice that the editor of The Sun was wearing exactly the same colour shirt as Ian's wearing today? Tangerine is how I describe it. We designed good. It was a very sensitive to colour issue.
But are you suggesting I'm a journalist?
Well, it may be something to do with hair loss. I was wondering whether the things might be related.
Girls.
Who's afraid of silence?
We're not going to get there, are we? Who's afraid of the big bad Wolves mascot? Is the answer, namely Wolfie, who got into an altercation with one of Bristol City's three little piggies. If you don't want to know the result, look away now.
What is the pig saying? Can I blow my house down? Are you? Come on.
I think this is to do with being mayor.
Yeah. Being mayor?
Yeah, there are a lot of mayor. Jerry Springer was mayor.
Sooty's mayor of Blackpool. Sooty was mayor of Blackpool.
Sweepsville.
Ken Livingston's the odd one out. He's never been mayor of anywhere.
Sorry, Ian, what were you saying?
Sooty was made mayor of Blackpool because it was 50 years ago this summer that Harry Corbett found him in a little toy shop.
How extraordinary. You appeared in a Sooty show, didn't you?
I did, it was great.
So, what, are you playing the part of a travelling salesman who was trying to sell Sooty gloves?
That's right. There we are.
Did you hang on to the hat? Did you?
That was my hat. I brought that with me.
And you haven't still got it, because I've got it here.
That's not the same one.
Well, they gave it to us.
Well,
Sooty,
I've got
there you
mine
are.
at home. Look,
That's not the same object at all, look. So I shall wear it for the rest of the show. I shall take it on and off quickly, and they will have a hell of a job editing the programme.
Fantastic. So how do we... what was Jerry Springer, mayor of?
He was mayor of Cleveland or Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
One of those. Cincinnati,
yes,
same
very
thing.
good.
Thank you.
And
Do you want a clue?
Yes.
no.
The clue can be, in fact, for Lloyd. And the question is, who would live in a house like this?
You're lost for words. I don't believe it.
Is it a paramilitary wing of the Teletubbies? I've never seen it. I mean,
Is this where you live, Bob?
It's a bunker.
This is, in fact, Bob's home, yes.
You're pretty paranoid about Mandelson, aren't you?
absolutely.
Saranoff was beaten by Jonathan Aiken.
At school?
Yeah, he was a prefect at Eton.
He would have been at school with Paul then.
Were you beaten when you went to Eton to buy the tie?
That's the beginning of a limerick, isn't it? Well, I had an escape that was narrow in Harrow.
Well, this is about embalming yourself. Al-Fayed has just announced, one of his more sane announcements actually, that he's going to have himself stuffed and mounted in a glass case on the top floor of Harrods. So this is true. So he can stand there on the top floor and look over all his employees, which makes a change from bugging them.
But at the moment, people will say, "Oh yes, of course, we'll do that. We'll do that." And when he dies, we'll say, "I'll bung him in the skip."
Anyway, you can see there's Jeremy Bentham. He was sort of mummified and stuffed in a glass case. And Mao was mummified and put in a glass case. And Cinderella, interestingly, was...
No, that's Snow White.
Oh, sorry. How stupid of me. Anyway, she was still alive when the dwarves put her in the case. So they were dead and she was alive. Is that right?
Is the right answer, yes, very good, well done.
No, Snow White's never been alive.
No, nor Sooty, but I didn't tell you.
Wash your mouth.
They've all had their bodies on display in glass cabinets, is the answer, with the exception of Mohammed Al-Fayed.
So Ian didn't get the right answer then?
Yes, he was virtually
But he picked
there.
Snow White.
Oh, did you? Oh, well, then you can't have all the points. Yes, you can have one for the reason, but you can't have one for getting the
So
right
what was
one
your
out.
reason that they've all been displayed except him who will be?
Yes, he was asked to be when he dies, but he's not dead
Right,
yet.
I better take up Paul's argument. Cinderella is not real.
And nor is Snow White.
Nor is Snow White. And finally, the full what?
Monarchy.
Exactly. And what is this a reference to?
It's the fact that the two princes got up and did the strip at the they
There's
did
only
a
one
bit
of
from
them.
the film.
Wasn't it just Charles?
Oh yeah, well he stood in the line and did a little bit of dance as well. But the princes as well, they did a sort of takeoff in the at the royal party, one of the several royal parties he's had this week.
Have you been to any of them?
No, I wasn't invited.
Were you?
No.
Is that true?
No.
You were invited.
Might have been. Didn't go.
You get invited.
No.
But where comes this Ponce here gets invited?
Talking of which, are you a member of the Garrick?
And are those your own teeth? This is good. I'll ask you the questions you change. About 8 years of listening to you spouting off.
No, why? Do you ask?
Someone saw you in there the other day.
My girlfriend's father is a member of the Garrick.
Right.
I haven't been blackballed yet.
You should have a word with your girlfriend then. I recommend
That's right.
creosote.
Thank you.
Keeps the woodpeckers away, I can tell you.
And the main difference, the main outrage this year?
Well, the Queen announced the end of hereditary privilege, which is quite a bizarre thing for a monarch to announce on a speech, really. And the Labour MPs cheered. And you're meant to be silent during the Queen's speech. But they couldn't stop themselves. They went, hurrah! And the Tory lords went, boo, shame. Proving how modern and grown up it all is. Not at all like third-rate panto.
And how did the Queen react?
She went, behind you!
She paused briefly before continuing.
She's a pro, you see.
Is she? A bit risky in her position, isn't it? A bit risky.
I think Paul misunderstands.
Does she do little sort of like little cards for phone boxes? New Queen in town. Take me up the Mall.
The 5 Law Lords reached their decision on the basis of a democratic vote, something of a foreign concept to General Pinochet and the rest of the House of the Lords. House of the Lords? No, I don't think so.
The thing about the Queen, you see, is she can read the autocue without cocking it all up. Well, you meant the BBC has been scaremongering about the effect of BSE, because they've killed 4 million cows.
We can actually see those 4 million cows now.
Oh.
That is a beef mountain. What are the dead cows to be used for?
Ballast. Ballast for jockeys. When jockeys go swimming, they're very light, so they have to have something sewn into their swimming trunks. How many jockeys do you know have drowned? None. That's why.
It's to generate electricity.
Where's the electricity then?
That bloke looks like Sir Edmund Hillary, doesn't he? He's just conquered the beef mountain.
That could be a very small man standing on a pork scratching.
The problem for farmers now is how to convince the rest of Europe to eat British beef.
Can't we get the Queen?
Have you been eating British beef? You seem to have lost the ability to read out loud. Which is worrying in a TV presenter, don't you think?
That's all I have to do, after all.
I think somebody's working him with his foot.
I wish it were true. And finally... Do you know you've got something in common with John Burt?
You both had sex with a donkey? Just him then? Someone didn't think I know about him?
Yes, I know, it's the other thing.
Blackpool Beach, LWT, staff weekend, got drunk. Went to see his doctor the next day with saddle rash. I think it's got to be, rather unfortunately, I can't think of how to phrase this. Is about sperm, isn't it?
In what way?
What way?
Oh, they're all colourblind. They're all colourblind.
In what way?
Has anything to do with sexual organs? In what way?
Next, a world-famous what?
Belgian. God be, there's famous for not having famous Belgians. The world-famous Belgian. Belgian, famous, world-famous. No, I'm a Belgian.
Is the right answer.
I said it would get a laugh. Nobody believed it. That could become my catchphrase. It could become a catch hat.
Yeah. We look forward to that.
You'll have to, it's in the future.
And what have Labour said about all this? And what have the Lib Dems said? Any idea, Charles?
We're still considering our position.
Haven't you agreed with Tony? Isn't that the basic line?
Well...
They're very cosy, aren't they, those two?
What are you suggesting, Mr. Melly?
Just because we're both wearing green.
Hunting green, it's a spaniel thing.
Yeah. Down, boy.
I mean, Fayed basically goes around trying to find stuff about government ministers in order to blackmail them into giving him a passport. I hope the lawyers are getting all this.
Now, George, you once described yourself as 15% gay, didn't you?
It's a pretty low average, I would have thought, looking at the present government. I used to be entirely gay, and I gradually drifted. Yes, only 15% left. And that very inactive. The odd leer. The odd leer at a waiter.
I loved your description of the difference between homosexuality and heterosexuality. You said you preferred heterosexuality because at least you could see the person's face.
I don't know any man, straight or gay, who actually likes shopping.
You like shopping, do you?
Shopping, yeah.
And are you straight or gay? Can you see the face?
You can if you're looking in the mirror.
Is this about Scottish television news and BBC?
In what way?
In what way? I'm in a loop of time here, aren't I? Why don't you put us out of your misery? It's jumping out of an aeroplane, isn't it? Parachuting out of a plane.
In what way?
Well, is it or isn't it? No, it isn't.
No.
Right, I won't bother then. No. That breath I saved then will serve me useful in later life. When I'm about 70 odd, I can just go, and that would be the breath I could have wasted. Well, I've wasted it now by explaining it. Do you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife? In what way? It's like that old joke, I went to a fight and a football match broke out.
Time for Mr. Ashdown's medication, I think.
Are you going to take him on in the leadership contest, then?
No. Ian, I'm very glad you asked me that question. You always know when politicians don't want to answer a question because they always respond with a question, don't they?
So would you like me to carry on?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So are you going to challenge him for the... Okay.
Which display of ungentlemanly conduct?
Thank you. Which display of ungentlemanly conduct brings round 3 to...
How did you do that? That's magic. That's magic. How did you know that Angus was going to say that?
He's prophetic.
They're only 2 points behind. What's the matter with you?
Yes, that's what I was just about to say. In fact, Paul and George beating Ian and Charles at this stage, 10-8.
Good evening and welcome to Have I News for You, or if you're watching this on widescreen television, hi. This is Cerberus.
Does he bark in unison, or is it like the Beverly Sisters? Is it like that?
I've never met him, I don't know. He guards the entrance to Hades.
Yes. Well, why would anybody want to go into Hades? Why do you have to guard the entrance? It's a terrible place. Everybody knows hell's a terrible place. I've got to go in there. It's a three-headed dog. I won't bother. What's the point? If it was guarding the entrance to Waitrose, I understand. That's a supermarket goods. Nobody wants to break into Hades. Why would he be guarding the entrance?
Well, the entrance, there's the worst bit of Hades, and then there's the Fields of the Blessed, which is quite a good place to go.
Yeah, there are 7 levels of hell.
Are there?
Yeah. The lowest one is called Malabolge. Yes.
Who's in there?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm terribly pleased about that. I've been wanting to say that for 60 years, yes.
Glad we gave you the opportunity.
I don't know what it is, but when I see the shot of Ian and Tom sitting together, Ian looks about 12.
I keep getting letters from people saying I'm in an advert for BBC Children's Television.
Oh, now, is this something to do with vests?
What am I going to say next, Paul?
No.
Is something to do with vests? No? Nothing to do with vests?
In what way?
Bad breath?
Did you enjoy that moment of glory? Was it like being in showbiz for a moment?
So, Paul and Muriel, your crackers. If you just like choose one. Will you pull it?
Right.
Okay.
And the clue to your question will be inside.
Bang! Oh, it's a pack of playing cards. How lovely. And some funny hats.
All right, well, do feel free to put them on, obviously.
Here, trivia. What is the most commonly used word in the English language?
What?
The. Imagine the family gathered around on Christmas Day. Oh, it's a joke on the other side. Do you hear about the octopus that went into battle? He was well armed. They haven't got arms anyway, they're not armed, they're tentacles. It's a rubbish cracker. Look, that's not a hat, is it? Look, that's not a hat. This is a bloody hat. I'll show you a hat. Look, that's a hat. And that's the last time I'm ever doing it. Except for money.
Yes. I wish. And how is it decided if there's a heat in an election over here? Any idea?
Coin.
Heat?
No, you vote again with the dead heat.
No, it's a coin. You were right the first time.
Really?
You toss a coin, yeah.
Fair enough. Doesn't matter much who gets in nowadays, does it? Conservative, Labour, Lib Lab, Con Lab,
Space
Lab Lab, blah 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 blah.
Tom, weren't you?
Anyone want a game of cards?
Help yourself.
To pull?
Yes.
Not in the supermarket, old lady. Use of the word. Lovely. Bang. There's a hamster.
Good.
Rubbish.
Yeah. Was there nothing else in it?
I think there's your hat and possibly joke over there. Which...
Yes, we've laid them to one side.
So I don't like that. I think we should have another caption. Give us another caption. We don't want that one. We don't want Yeah, you didn't know that was happening, did you? General Pinochet's right-hand man arrested at last.
New chapter opens of Hell's Chartered Accountants.
This is a Christmas surprise, everyone.
How do you like your blue-eyed boy, Mr. Death?
Angus takes his stabilisers off. This is a great moment.
Your toupee will be here in a moment, Mr. Deaton.